there is an unfortunate subplot to the conflict in Iran. Apparently, Trump derangement syndrome is so bad on the left that the legacy media mob, Democrats, other so-called liberals, they are rooting for America to lose. These lunatics who constantly drape themselves in virtue are now rooting for a regime in Iran that murders protesters, throws gay people off of tall buildings, and tortures women to death if their hair is not completely covered in public, and for other reasons. Don't take my word for it. You know, after it took just 2 weeks to completely destroy Iran's Navy, Air Force, air defenses, and degrade its missiles and drones by 90%, well, here's how the media mob spun it. Over at ABC, quote, even as Iran has been pummeled by Israeli and American airstrikes, with its military capabilities greatly diminished, Tehran continues to demonstrate resolve both in adapting and expanding its military tactics. Could they tell us who might be in charge of that? And here's Time magazine, quote, Trump may radicalize regime rather than topple it, according to the experts. Most of the radicals are now dead. Fake news, CNN, quote, 7 reasons why Trump hasn't won the Iran war. It barely started. And I don't even know if you'll call it a war, but a massacre. And, of course, the New York Times, who didn't seem to notice the historically high gas prices under Joe Biden, even getting as high as $5 a gallon, are now in panic mode. Quote, oil shock sends tremors through world economy. This really is the big one. And look at this headline. The United Nations has already declared that Iran's nuclear program will live on in perpetuity. It's been 3 weeks. Iran's government, their military, is gone, obliterated, in shambles. The so-called supreme leader can't or won't show his face in public. He's either dead, injured, or too afraid. One former Clinton official who never voted for Donald Trump and doesn't even support his policies put it this way. It is profoundly disturbing that a growing segment of the far left appears to be almost rooting for Hamas, Hezbollah, the Iranian regime, and other forces fundamentally opposed to the U.S. and our allies. This seems to reflect a corrosive strain of anti-Americanism dressed up in post-colonial theory that risks blinding us to the moral realities of our world and the nature of our adversaries. Here with reaction, Hoover Institution, Senior Fellow, Victor Davis Hanson. First of all, Victor, I know you've been through a lot medically. Welcome back. Great to have you. You've been missed. I know you're writing, and I know you started your podcast up again. It's great to have you back.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that.
All right. Let's just look at this. First of all, the entire narrative surrounding it. I'll let you take it in any direction you want. The media, the conflict itself, anti-Americanism, virulent anti-Semitism around the world, college campuses and the punditry class. I just want to get your overall view of all of it.
Well, you know, we don't have people on the ground to tell us what's really happening in Iran except, you know, captive news people like CNN that are there only with the permission of the theocracy. But there's enough evidence to see how things are really going. Europeans would never agree to go anywhere near Iran unless they thought the tide was turning and they think that we're going to win. Otherwise, they would keep still. And the reason that the petro-nations of the Gulf survive is they have their finger in the wind and they're very attuned to the climate. And when you have Al Jazeera praising the United States bombing campaign and saying that it's been underestimated and it's brilliant and effective, you get the feeling that they think not only should the United States finish the job, but it can and will finish the job. And then when you start to see tactical aircraft like Warthogs and Apaches, that means that they're offering almost ground and sea support to hit targets. There's nothing, there's no defense at all when you have that type of aircraft flying at will in Iranian airspace. So you put it all together, and I think it's pretty clear that this rope-a-dope strategy that they have, that we're going to tire before they are, is dependent on just public opinion, the midterms in the United States. And if Trump sees it through, and I think he will, I think they're going to fall pretty soon, in 2, 3, 4 weeks. And I think they know it, and I think the Europeans know it, and I think the Middle East knows it, and their only hope, the Iranians' only hope, is that somebody will call Donald Trump off before the job is finished.
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think President Trump plans on going back a third time.
I don't think it is either. I think that's their hope from the left.
You know, you're a great historian. You're very knowledgeable. I've been pointing out there seem to be three historical examples that Donald Trump is leaning on here. Reagan, peace through strength. He seems to have a full understanding that what we didn't apply in the last century that cost about 100 million human souls, probably more, that if you don't take out a threat early, that you risk potentially losing millions of lives. He seems to have learned the lesson of Mao and Stalin and Hitler and Pol Pot and Tojo and Mussolini. Lastly, he seems to have learned from Iraq and Afghanistan, no forever wars, and with new advanced military technology, he is showing that there is a new generation of warfare and new strategies involving warfare, and it's on display now for the world to see. Do you see anything? Do you agree with that? Do you see anything in addition to that?
I do. I think his philosophy is we're not going to put people in a Fallujah-like context where they're going door to door against jihadists that know the terrain and the environment. We're not going to do that. We're going to play to our strength, which is intelligence, technology, firepower, and we're going to do it in a new way with enhanced drones and satellite reconnaissance, so we know the individual names of individual commanders. That's new. But, you know, he reminds me a lot. In 1939, Churchill had warned everybody about the threat of fascism on the continent, Nazis, Italians, and Japanese, and nobody listened to him. And then after the war broke out, nobody called on him, and then finally he came in. And from May 10th of 1940, he was saying to everybody, these people want to take over the whole continent. And we weren't in. The Russians were on the side of the Germans
the
at
Nazis.
That time under the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact, and he was the voice in the wilderness. And that's what Trump is trying to do. He's trying to say to the American Democratic Party, what's left of it, you don't understand what's going on here. You Europeans don't understand. You people in the Middle East don't fully understand what this regime is about. And when people say, well, we didn't have an imminent threat, we didn't have an imminent threat when they took our hostages, when they blew up our barracks. Nobody said we better attack Iran because we need an imminent threat when they blew up our embassy. They always acted spontaneously with surprises, and we never knew what they were going to do. So the idea that you have to have a telegraphed imminent threat, it's not the nature of that regime. It's lying, disguise, and dissimulation, and that's their pattern for the last 47 years. But nobody's taken them serious. Every president said we're going to deal with this, all 7 of them, and all 7 of them did not. And then all 7 of them, when they got out of office, said, I regret that I didn't. And he's the first one that warned the world and said it's not going to be one of those presidents.
Steve Witkoff clarified that when they were bragging they had 460 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium, which means in 7 to 10 days it can be enriched to 90%, which is weapons grade. Victor, we missed you. Welcome back. We're glad to have you and hope you're feeling much better.